Welcome back. Amnesty International says the decision taken by the ICC on the warrant of arrest for Benjamin Netanyahu is a step in the right direction, and finally the wheels of international justice have finally caught up with those who are alleged to be responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Palestine and Israel. And she joins us now to reflect on the news coming out of the ICC. Shenilla, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. And Shenilla Mohamed is the Executive Director of Amnesty International South Africa. Your reaction to the warrant of arrest, but also how do you make sure that the warrant of arrest is not just seen as merely symbolic, but there are actually steps that are taken beyond just the issuing of the arrest warrant?
Good morning, Aldrin, and good morning to your viewers. I mean, obviously, as you say, we see these arrest warrants as a huge breakthrough. I mean, it's a historic breakthrough for justice, and really it must signal the beginning of the end of the persistent and pervasive impunity that lies at the heart of the human rights crisis in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory. I think that the fact that Prime Minister Netanyahu is now officially a wanted man, as well as the indictments of Gallant and, the Hamas leaders, I think the whole really the question about how do we implement this? I mean, the whole international community must stop at nothing until these individuals are brought to trial before the ICC's independent and impartial judges. So what next? I mean, I think what next now is that the ICC will be sending these warrants to the 125 member states. And, while this will not be stopping the carnage that's going on in Gaza at the moment, but what it will do, it will make life much harder for those that have been indicted. And I think that, all the member states will now be obliged to ensure that these arrest warrants are carrying out. So it makes travel much harder. It makes, things more difficult. I mean, the countries that have rejected it, I mean, those are countries that, for example, America is not a member of the ICC, neither is Israel. However, those that are members are obliged to carry out these arrest warrants on behalf of the ICC. The ICC in itself, Aldrin, does not have the power to carry out these arrests. It depends on member states to do so. So, as the South African government has said, that, the onus is now on the member states to ensure that the ICC warrants are carried out and that these people are brought to the ICC in order to stand trial for the crimes against humanity and the war crimes that they are being charged with.
Yeah. What difference really does it make if you have the likes of the United States, of course, which isn't a member or signatory to the Rome Statute, coming out to say that they are rejecting the warrant of arrest. John Thune, who is the incoming Senate majority leader in the US, also saying that as far as they're concerned, their interpretation of this arrest warrant is that it is a threat to our ally, and also if left unchecked, it is a potential threat or poses a potential threat to the United States. And here we are speaking also about a Trump administration that will be taking over in January.
Well, I think, it's not unexpected, Aldrin. I mean, this is exactly the response we would expect from Israel's biggest ally. So, it's not an unexpected response. However, I do think where the Americans and the American government is really not going to succeed in them, attempting to delegitimize these arrest warrants is that these arrest warrants are really about crimes against humanity, including starvation, that have been brought against the people of Palestine. So they cannot argue that this is a threat to their, that this was in self-defense or a threat to security. This is about a deliberate action that was taken by those that have been indicted to bring about starvation and other torture and other war crimes and crimes against humanity against the people of Palestine. So I think it'll be a very hard argument to put forward that, whatever was done in self-defense. How does starvation constitute self-defense? So, I mean, they will be, shouting out and, coming against the arrest warrants. But at the end of the day, I think it is historic. I do think that, countries that have been reluctant in the past to seek justice for the Palestinians, even though they are members of the ICC, will now be forced to take action. I think that, the fact that they are saying, the Americans are also saying that, this was done very hastily and it was very quick. Well, it's been 6 months since these arrest warrants were applied for. And I think that it's not been hasty. And, it's really been, due process has been followed. And, again, the ICC is not perfect. I mean, as Amnesty International, we have called this out time and time again. However, it's all that we have. And so at the moment, I think that, the arrest warrants are historical, they're significant, and they are a significant step forward to getting justice for those that have really been brutally treated during this war that is going on in Gaza.
And what about legitimacy? One of the arrest warrant, as well as the International Criminal Court, as you highlighted now, but also of some of the signatories of the Rome Statute. South Africa, as an example, has welcomed this arrest warrant, and we know that we have that case before the ICJ. But it's also South Africa that was against the idea of having to arrest Vladimir Putin, who also has an arrest warrant against him for some of the alleged crimes committed in the war against Ukraine. So how do you balance the two? And on the other end, also some people arguing that, is this not double standards?
Well, look, we had warned South Africa, time and time again about, making sure that they do not, apply double standards. And I think, the question you're asking is exactly what we had warned against. We had said that, you cannot use these legal avenues when and if it suits you. It's got to be across the board. It's got to be used equitably across the board. And I think, South Africa is learning the hard way that, when you pick and choose, then it does come back to really put a question mark against your own legitimacy. So, I mean, obviously, South Africa now has declared that they will stand solidly and, will not be pulling out of the Rome Statute. So, I mean, that is absolutely a step forward. But I think what you've highlighted is the problem that we are facing, Alton, is that states will pick and choose who they want to support and who they don't want to support. We're seeing exactly the same thing happening with America, with Austria, with all the other countries that are standing steadfast against Israel. So, it puts South Africa in a difficult position because, they did exactly the same thing. So, once again, I think that it's imperative that all the 125 countries that are signatories to the Rome Statute support the ICC, because otherwise, it becomes a meaningless exercise. And, for us as an organization that is very rooted in law and international law, we will always argue that while there may be weaknesses, it is imperative that we safeguard these avenues, because that's all that the world has at the moment to seek justice for victims of crimes against humanity and war crimes.
Yeah, and finally, the indictment against the Hamas leader Ibrahim al-Masri. Israel is saying that he's dead. He was killed in July. I don't know what this means for the case, but speak to us about the importance of how the prosecution in this particular matter has also ensured that you don't only bring an indictment or a warrant of arrest against one of the parties, but you bring a warrant of arrest against two of the parties.
Absolutely. And I think that, the decision taken, and this is not the first time that the IC has issued an arrest warrant against Hamas leaders. Ismail Haniyeh had an arrest warrant issued against him. So, I mean, I think that it's really important that the ICC is seen to be fair and just across the board, because ultimately any life, whether it is an Israeli life or a Palestinian life that is lost in conflict, is one life too many. So, I think the ICC's decision to include Hamas, obviously 1,000 200 Israelis were killed, during the 7th of October raids. And so, it is an important message, I think, that is being sent, that there can be no safe haven for anybody who is alleged to have committed war crimes, no matter who you are and no matter where you come from.
Thank you so much for your time. Shenilla Mohamed is Amnesty International South Africa's Executive Director there, speaking to us about the arrest warrants that have been issued against Benjamin Netanyahu, his former defense minister, as well as the Hamas leader. But according to Israel, al-Masri was already killed in July, according to the information that they have sent. What does this mean for the case? But there you have all three arrest warrants that have been issued.